and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. The program is coming to you Monday to Friday on CGTN. Despite the global economic uncertainties caused by the ongoing Sino-US trade war, researchers say Hong Kong continues to present strong growth opportunities, especially in the consumer-centric business sector. Hong Kong follows an innovation-based growth path and last year ranked 7th in the Global Innovation Index. Some experts say high-tech innovation is the key to Hong Kong's future, but how sustainable will that be? I recently sat down with Mr. Paul Chan-Mong-Po, Secretary of Finance with Hong Kong SAR. He will share his insight on these matters.
On Sunday, a high-speed train arrived in Hong Kong for the first time. The latest addition to Hong Kong's transportation system is another link to the Chinese mainland. It took the special bullet train 19 minutes to go from Shenzhen to Hong Kong's West Kowloon station. This new connection links the city with 44 stations on the mainland and takes passengers to Beijing in less than 9 hours.
When a short railway of 26 kilometers gets integrated into the mainland network, it will interlink Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong, the 3 fast-developing leading cities in the Greater Bay Area.
The Greater Bay Area refers to a Beijing-led development initiative that encompasses 9 cities in Guangdong Province plus Hong Kong and Macau. Grand projects are taking shape. Among them is the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. It is 36 kilometers long and cost $20 billion. As physical and procedural barriers drop, talent and capital will be able to flow more smoothly in the region. The synergy of the Greater Bay Area draws from Hong Kong's financial expertise, Shenzhen's tech culture, and other cities' manufacturing power. The government hopes that this zone of 70 million people will become a hub for growth and innovation, one that could be in the same league as San Francisco, New York, and Tokyo. A new development model is much needed for Hong Kong. The former British colony returned to Chinese sovereignty 21 years ago. It has benefited from serving as a conduit between the Chinese mainland and the rest of the world. Yet the special administrative region's growth has been slowing down. It is also confronting rising inequality, an aging population, and most famously, scarce housing. The recent trade war between China and the U.S. has not impacted the port city directly. However, any cloud over the mainland's economy also casts a shadow in Hong Kong.
We understand the latest news suggesting about China-U.S. trade dispute escalating as we speak. Many wonder what does it mean for Hong Kong, which certainly is an important financial center and the door to China in a way.
Yes. Well, this escalating trade tension in the short term, the impact on us is manageable. Mainland China goods routing through Hong Kong to the U.S. Under the current additional tariff on the $250 billion goods, affecting our GDP about 0.2 to 0.4% in terms
for Hong
of
Kong.
In terms of the direct trade impact. This will be happening next year. For this year, the impact is rather limited. Against this backdrop, the impact is not just the direct trade flow, but also in terms of investment sentiment, investors' confidence, and business sector confidence. We start to see people holding back in terms of business investments. We start to see the response of the stock market. This is more worrying in terms of overall sentiment and the consequential impact on the economy. We are watching this very carefully, and at the same time, we are going to roll out measures to support our SMEs, those being hard hit by this escalating trade tension, to make sure they have sufficient liquidity support and assisting them to explore new markets, such as Asian markets.
Mr. Secretary, I understand Hong Kong is not lack of cash. You've got a lot of cash on your hand, but at the same time, how to smartly use the cash is the issue here. So given the unpredictability, particularly leading up to next year's GDP, because very likely only minor reflection of the trade dispute on the fourth quarter, but certainly next year.
Sure.
So how do you think at this point you're going to allocate your resources smartly for next year?
For the short to medium term, supporting our SMEs is important. And in the more fundamental and medium term, as you know, for this term of government, we devote a lot of resources into innovation and technology, because this is the way to bring our economic development to another stage. We will continue to invest heavily on that. Since the establishment of the Innovation and Technology Bureau about 2.5 years ago, we have spent and committed to spend about 80 billion Hong Kong dollars. And we have selected 4 sectors to concentrate our energy: fintech, smart city, artificial intelligence, and biotech.
Right.
We will continue to invest in that, and also invest heavily in building our capacity, land supply, appropriate infrastructure.
Whether Hong Kong will still be a leader in the 4th industrial revolution in the region is a question mark. Many say that could only be answered, Mr. Secretary, if we know or not Hong Kong will have the right talents. I understand your government has been working very hard in pushing resources to attract the talents, but you have to see, Mr. Secretary, the right talents everybody wants.
Very competitive.
Very competitive.
But we believe we have competitive advantage. Say, for example, we are the most international city in China. Because of history, we have deep connections and experience in dealing with foreign business. The confluence of East and the West in Hong Kong also very attractive to many foreign businessmen. And more importantly, under the one country, two system unit arrangement, we preserve our legal system and economic system. We are the only city in the world that practicing common law in both Chinese and English languages. So these are all our advantages. But that is not enough. So in the past 2 years and going into the future, we want to create an ecosystem to attract more talents to come, particularly in the innovation and technology sector. That's why we provide incentives to encourage top universities, research laboratories to come to Hong Kong to do some applied research with our universities. And also we are rolling out measures to attract tech companies to come here. We believe if we can create a cluster of these companies, that will attract the talents to come. And by working with our neighboring cities, such as Shenzhen, which has quite a couple of leading tech companies, and also with the advanced manufacturing base in Dongguan, Weizhou, Foshan, together we can be the international innovation and technology hub of China.
I can see, Mr. Secretary, you and your colleague have already got a beautiful plan, but I have to remind you, some of those talents thinking about choosing their future destinations, they're thinking about Hong Kong. Is it still the same as before? Is it still going to be efficient? They do see some of the media reports about what's going on in the streets from time to time, and therefore people are concerned, are they going to see the real Hong Kong that they remember?
Well, for top talents, it's not just career, not just making money, but it is about lifestyle. That's why we have been investing heavily to increase our attractiveness as a cultural center. We have devoted substantial resources into developing the West Kowloon Cultural District. And a couple of major infrastructures will be completing. One is the Xi Center,
yes,
for the traditional Chinese opera. The M+ Museum is under construction, which is for contemporary arts. The Paris Museum is also under construction. But on top of that, we have revitalized quite a couple of historic buildings, say for example PMQ and the recently opened Daguan. This return our historic heritage into attractive designer and lifestyle venue for people to enjoy life.
It's rewarding, certainly, to see a Secretary of Finance, when talking about a district about culture and arts, there are lights in his eyes. One could tell how much importance you are attaching to that part of the work, which is very important for Hong Kong's future,
yes,
for that transformation. Having said that, though, I have to add here, sir, Ms. Lam, the chief executive, had been very ambitious at the very beginning of her term, together with all the team, including you, sir, to be able to bring to Hong Kong the change that many have been desired for really quite some time. But I guess this is really a time of test. Quite some time into the governance already. What do you think about the efficiency of implementing rather the goals that you have set for yourself from your work, for example, sir?
We are fortunate. We have a more we have an environment which is more harmonious in the past 13-14 months. I would say a lot have been achieved. Say, for example, the reform to our listing regime, allowing new economy companies with greater voting rights to get listed. For example, in getting the funding approval from the Legislative Council for the various projects going forward, we are making significant progress. But there is a lot more to do, and the whole team is very energized, knowing that we are competing with time. We are not lack of resources, we are not lack of determination. We need to put our act together. So I would say the whole team is very motivated, and we will continue to do our best.
Let me ask you about the Greater Bay Area. That is a gigantic project that all of you aspire to achieve great results. But is it still in the process of talk shop? Many wonder, when is it going to be the graduation from that into real implementation? Of course, we understand the speed train from Beijing to Hong Kong is now operating at 9 hours only, rather than a whole day of train ride. This is revolutionary almost. But what about that speed into translation of other projects in the Greater Bay Area?
The Greater Bay Area is a very important and foresightful national strategy, linking Macau, Hong Kong, and 9 cities on the mainland. It requires high-level coordination, number one, to reduce unnecessary negative competition, and at the same time, more importantly, to work to our respective strengths, to have more synergies, to bring the entire district to another level. So the way we see it is that in the planning process, this has to be careful and enough discussion among the cities, the stakeholders, so that we can have a broad plan we all ascribe to. And in the process, at the same time, we do our preparation. Say, for example, in the Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong being leading international financial center, we need to play to our strength to better serve the Bay Area and the companies and the people in the Bay Area.
How?
Say, for example, the reform to the listing regime, allowing more tech companies to list in Hong Kong more easily. For example, we are going to offer tax incentive for companies coming to Hong Kong to set up their reinsurance companies, to manage their risk overseas, to set up their corporate treasury center in Hong Kong, to manage their funding, exchange risk, interest rate risk outside of China for Hong Kong. Also, we are talking to the Guangdong government as well as central government, the possibility of allowing us to set up some service center in the Bay Area to serve the people there, because this is one of the most affluent regions in the mainland. And according to research conducted by the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, mainland people tend to spend about 27% of their income on financial products and insurance. This is a huge need for financial services. So this is one example. The other example we are preparing ourselves is in the innovation technology side. We are working with Shenzhen to develop a Hong Kong-Shenzhen technology park in Lok Ma Chau area, our border area, which is twice the size of our science park. We will be creating 2 clusters, one artificial intelligence, the other biotech, to attract mainland and international research institutions and tech companies to come. Let's work together to create a necessary ecosystem to bring us to the next level in terms of the respective area of innovation development. So we are doing a lot of preparation. And aside from economic development, on the people-to-people level, we have received tremendous support from the central government, allowing more flexibilities and policies for Hong Kong people to work in the mainland in terms of enjoying the same treatment, just like any other our Chinese counterparts there. This facilitation is indeed very helpful. And what is more important is that the Greater Bay Area is an evolving plan.
That's right.
So we have to try our best to map out for the future, talk to each other to find ways to improve ourselves, and in the process, if there are difficulties, let's find a solution and then move together.
Right. Before we go, final question for you, Mr. Secretary. There are a lot of debates about China's economy, whether there are vulnerabilities, whether the debts can be some of the problems for the future. And of course, as you said very clearly, Hong Kong's financial center status is so much close linked to the mainland's economy.
Yes.
How is Hong Kong going to be prepared, or is prepared, to face some of the possible vulnerabilities so that the vulnerabilities can be rooted out at the initial stage?
The unilateralism in the U.S. and their interest rate hikes will have significant impact in terms of capital flow, in terms of exchange rates. So we need to get ourselves prepared. In Hong Kong, our banking system remains very robust and strong. The classified loan ratio is just 0.6%. The capital adequacy ratio is 19.1% as compared to the international requirement of 8%. Liquidity coverage is 150%. So even if there are shocks in the financial sector, I think we are more than able to absorb that. If I may share with you an example, a couple of months ago, some money started to flow out of Hong Kong, and people at that time was wondering, hey, whether Hong Kong dollar was weakening, whether this flow of capital outside of Hong Kong would be cause for alarm. I would assure you that this is not a cause for alarm. We have to look at this in perspective. Ever since 2008, the global financial crisis, international capital floating into Hong Kong and stay in Hong Kong up to the end of 2016 was 130 billion US. So in the last couple of months, just about 10% of that floating out. So to us, this is a very healthy kind of adjustment. And during that process, we have observed very carefully. Basically, these transactions are arbitrage transactions because of the interest disparity between Hong Kong and the US. There is minimal speculative activities. So we will continue to be very vigilant in monitoring the situation. And in fact, in the past few months, we did have applied stress tests on our banks, on our stockbrokers, just in case there is any sharp adjustments. Are they able to cope with it? The results have been very satisfactory. And take stockbrokers as an example, we even raised the margin requirements of the stockbrokers in preparation of sudden extreme situation. So I think on the one hand, we have to be careful, remain vigilant, but on the other hand, we do not need to be over worried.
So that wouldn't keep you up at night?
Well, keep me on top.
Well, a pleasure,
Yeah,
Mr. Secretary. Thank you so much for your time. All the best.